Happy Friday evening, everyone. My name is Jacob Eric Cancino, and welcome to another episode of Grading the Market, part of the Sweep the League TV network. On our previous episode, we talked about some do's and some don'ts into the hobby. On this episode, we're going to go ahead and talk about some of the things that are going on currently in the hobby. All right. We're going to go ahead and start off with Paul Skenes. A lot has happened over the past 72 hours. It'll get It's going to get interesting, really, really interesting with that one. It's also championship weekend in the NFL. We're going to go ahead and talk about maybe how that could affect some of the players on the team, depending on what happens. And finally, at the end, Anthony's going to go ahead and share a couple of announcements, maybe with the from PSA actually and SGC, and just touch on them briefly. And hey, speaking of Anthony, let's go ahead and bring him on. Anthony Turk, welcome back, brother.
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me again, Jacob. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good, good, good. Happy it's Friday.
Yeah, TGIF, everyone. Hey, Anthony, we're gonna go ahead and dive right into it, man. Paul Skenes seems to, if you jump on X or anything, you can't escape any of that news. So his MLB debut patch card got pulled maybe about 3 days ago. For those of y'all who don't know, the 2024 Chrome update product has the MLB rookie debut patch cards. What they are just exactly what they sound like. When a rookie is going to make his MLB debut, they put a debut patch on his jersey. When his game is finished, they remove the patch and they actually insert it into a card, making it an immediate one of one. The player will go ahead and do an on-card auto, cool stuff like that. Anthony, the 2024 product, the Topps Chrome, have you tried getting any? And if so, what are your thoughts on the patch cards?
Um, so I think it's an amazing product, right? Tops to me, baseball, um, I think always leads the way in look, innovation, right? And this product here is just unique, one of a kind, special, and not only just to us collectors and the fans, right, but the players themselves, right? The players themselves are like, man, like this is my patch, right? Like, a lot of them obviously want it back, or the club, want it back. And yeah, I wanted to pick up a Topps Chrome update hobby box. Um, I it's hit and miss with these things, right? When they're hot and they're hard to get, right? And then the downside to that is once they start,
Oh,
um,
sorry.
once the players start going, right? Once these patches start going, right? Then the values for the one big hit, right? Like schemes, that value starts going up higher and higher. But what that does to the market, though, to the local card shops, is they also have to pay an upcharge, right? Who they're getting these boxes from, they're also tracking everything, right? So they have to pay a premium just to be able to sell these boxes, right? So once the list of players gets smaller and smaller, right, for what's available, right, the price might go up, right? Because now I'm like, oh my God, people, guys like us get more and more excited. Like it's still out there. I might get it. Um, but then the local card shop might be like, hold on a second, how many more of these things am I going to pay? Because once somebody hits it, now I'm stuck with these boxes that nobody's really going to want anymore because Skeens is gone, right? So once it gets towards the end, right, it's kind of hard to find them because the local card shops are, deciding whether they want to, keep getting orders of them.
Yeah, Anthony, I agree with everything you just said right there, and I like the way you touched on the point where, if you had your own card, you would definitely want it. Man, you think about like all the blood, sweat, and tears and the work that those baseball players put into, and just to get to that moment, um, I would definitely want my card if I had one. Um, it's funny that uh, Joey Loperfido actually currently with the was it the Tampa Bay or not the Tampa Bay, Toronto Blue Jays rather.
Hmm.
when his debut patch card came out. Man, he took matters into his own hands. He slapped a little bit of extra ink on the back of his card with the simple message, "Hey, DM me."
That's cold right there.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, Anthony. So when the Paul Skenes card first surfaced, um, it's a beautiful looking card, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, they all are, like you touched on. They all are. I love the simplicity of them. They
Hmm.
just look cool, and that patch is always going to. Um, that patch just like
It's
really
gonna
makes
that
the card
that
stand out.
yeah, that card from now on, I would imagine is going to be the premium top pick
Mhm.
card, right? From here on out, right? And I assume that maybe the other big sports might follow suit, right? Maybe NBA, NFL, and hockey. Uh, it'd be a really cool idea, smart idea for them to follow suit.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, so when that Paul Skenes card first came out, not pulled, but when it just when Top said like, "Hey,
When they announced it,
yeah," when they announced it, this is what it looks like. The Pittsburgh Pirates organization, they quickly jumped on over it and they're like, "Hey, whoever pulls this card, we propose a trade." And I believe it was like well, it's right there. It was like 30 years or two season tickets behind home
home
plate
plate. Yep,
for the next 30 years.
yep.
Yes, you heard that right, guys. 30 years. I think it was like two autograph jerseys,
Yeah, it's a meet. It was a meet and greet with Paul Skenes.
meet and greet.
Softball game
Yep.
at the park.
They really, really wanted that card, and it, I remember when it first came out, I was like, wow, it's not that bad. And actually, somebody did the math, and the tickets alone, it came out to like about $750,000.
Yeah. And
So
that's without
it
inflation, right?
definitely got people thinking.
That's just the value in the tickets at today's price.
Yep, yep. But hey, Anthony, just to play a funny, quick game. Let's just say you pull that card, all right, and Pittsburgh has that offer on the table. What are you doing? Are you taking it? You making a counter trade, or you just straight up telling them from the front, "Hey, just give me a bag, guys."
Well, one, it probably wouldn't. I probably wouldn't be dealing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm Steelers with the Pirates. Sorry. Um, uh, I'd probably be dealing with um, maybe somebody. I'd probably wait to see what somebody else was offering. Right. Firstly, I do what the young man did that pulled the card. The lucky young man that pulled it instantly have it graded. Tops was PSA was all over it,
Mhm.
um, and maybe somebody from the Pittsburgh area that won't have to fly into Pittsburgh to watch the games. Maybe somebody there wants it. Maybe a local business wants to pick it up, right? Raffle it off, make a big event out of it. Um, but they knew that most people um, that thought about pulling it weren't going to be able to make it to those games, right? How many? The kid that pulled it is in California. He's not going to be able to make it. So I'd be looking um, for a max offer on the card, and if it's Skeens the ones that wants it, right? Then that would have made it even sweeter, right? But I definitely would have looked to um, uh, move from it.
Yeah, he is Anthony Turk. Make sure you give him a follow at Giant Dad 21, and go ahead and leave a comment down below. Let us know what would you have done if you pulled that Paul Skeens card, or maybe what kind of counter offer are you making? Yeah, Anthony. Like you touched on, it kind of like I think everybody was scratching their head when Pittsburgh very, very first made that offer. Everybody was laughing, but like you said, the kid lives in Los Angeles. What are they going to do? Is he going to have to fly out every single game? I mean, it's just you know it kind of like just didn't make sense, at the
Yeah.
very beginning. You
And
know,
there's news that came out earlier today that he's declining the Pittsburgh's Pirates offer.
there, yep. It did come out earlier today that he did decline, and we're actually going to go ahead and jump more into that here in a little bit. But Anthony, let's just say, let's just say, what if Pittsburgh, because you live in the Tampa area, right, with the Devil Rays.
Hmm.
I know sometimes. you go to those games. Let's just say you're a hardcore MLB fan, Devil Rays fan. What about if the Pittsburgh Pirates organization would have been like, hey, two two home plate seats uh, for the next 30 years to the team of your choice? Would that have sweetened the deal a little bit?
So let's say even if I was like a, a diehard Rays fan, or let's just just so that it sinks in a little bit more, right? Let's say that it was like a 30 years behind Yankee Stadium. Um, that would have been hard to pass up if I lived in the area, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Um, I mean,
it
just
kind of changes things a little bit when you think about it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Everybody, not too many people thought about that.
yeah,
Here
yeah,
in San Antonio, where I'm based, we only have the San Antonio Missions. They're a farm league, so if Pittsburgh Pirates were, if I pulled in, the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to reach out to me, I'm gonna be like, no, I'm gonna need some. I'm gonna need like part ownership for the missions on that one. You know what I mean? Ain't gonna be no, ain't gonna be no sweets or anything like that. You better get on out of here. But
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, but honestly, let's say that um, let's say you did keep the deal, right? Um, what if you sold half your games for the year, right? Half your seat, then you sold your seats for half the games throughout the year, right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
It's definitely a fun game to play. You know what I mean? As collectors, you know what I mean. When you just think like, what if? What
yeah,
if? You know what I mean? Like if it would have happened to me, and then if situations were different, circumstances were different. You know what I
yeah,
mean? If I lived in a
and
different city,
and
Anthony, I'm a big Padre fan. Let's say I was living in San Diego again,
hmm
and I pulled it over there. I may have been doing some wheeling and dealing and being like, look, not interested in going to PNC Park, guys, but I will definitely go to Petco.
yeah,
you know. But
yeah,
hey, anyway, sticking on with the Paul Skenes card. So as you touched on a couple of days ago, an 11-year-old out of Los Angeles pulls the card, and Twitter or Twitterverse X, whatever you want to call it, goes crazy. Everybody went crazy. The hobby went crazy. It quickly got around that the card was pulled. Their redemptions, by the way, um, all of them, to my knowledge. And then maybe 1 or 2 days later, all of a sudden, PSA, I don't know if it's exactly PSA or Tops. One of them released a picture of the card graded in a slab, 10 card, 10 for the auto. But it just kind of like it made me scratch my head at how fast it got graded by PSA. And shout out Robert Anthony. I think he had touched on it earlier when the news broke that whoever it is that owns this card declined the Pittsburgh's offer and
hmm
decided to go to an auction house because I had pointed out, I was like, being that it got to PSA and graded so fast,
hmm
there is no way,
hmm
no way that they were going to be taking the offer. So what were your thoughts when you first saw that it would came out? It was like graded like just so quickly. A redemption card, mind you, meaning like you usually have to like fill stuff, jump online, fill stuff out. You
yeah.
know what I mean? The card comes to you, then you would have to like submit it. You know what I mean? But like no, just in 2 days, boom, this card was graded 10 to 10.
Yeah, honestly, I was a little bit taken aback when I first saw that. Like, man, that got graded pretty fast, right? But I guess I was just gullible and just thought that, okay, well, obviously all the big players in this market are looking for that card, right? It's the number one talked about card in all the planet, at least in the U.S. And so once it got, you know, once they identified that somebody got it, um, I guess I just assumed that they were, nowadays you can get a hold of somebody within seconds, right? Even a complete stranger. So I just assumed that they got a hold of them. They said, hey, you want to grade it? We'll grade it for you for free. Ship it over next day. Here's a label. So, I mean, it's plausible, right? That it's done, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, um, it's hard not to think about, like, man, it's weird. Why was his card one of the last ones to get pulled, right? Knowing that everyone's is looking, for this card. Everyone's no local card shops has any of these, right? Um, so people are buying the product, but it's the last one of the last ones out of all the MLB debut patches to get pulled. I think my numbers might be off, right? But I think
I
it's
think it was
probably somewhere around.
251.
Um, let me see. I got the numbers here. Um, uh,
I think it is 251. Um,
yeah, my screen's acting up. Um, but it's a lot. But I would if I had to guess, I can't get the numbers right now. My screen's locking up, but I'd probably say that like 80-90% of the MLB debut patches got pulled.
they have. Tops actually had released a message, or actually sent out a tweet about that. I think it was in the beginning of January, talking about like how many patch cards are still out there. At the time that they released that message, the Paul Skenes card actually was still out there,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to say maybe like Yamamoto's card is still out there as well.
Okay.
Um, maybe maybe that'll be a whole nother episode. So
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, like we went ahead and touched on, that card is going to auction. You know what? Also, another thing had me scratching my head when I pointed that out. I always thought it was going to be golden auctions. They already had like I don't want to say like an agreement, but they had already had like a message out to collectors. They were like, "Hey, to anybody who pulls any patch card, you get it to us, and we have an agreement with PSA, blah blah blah, and they'll do like, certain little things." So I always thought it was going to be golden, um, but yeah, it turns out that in this instance, it's going to be a Fanatics auction. Anthony, somebody pointed out earlier today that it's another head scratcher. Fanatics, they're the ones who own Tops. Is it kind of weird that this product gets pulled, and then all of a sudden it gets auctioned off at a Fanatics auction, and especially in this day where like everything's talking, like all the talk is about breakers and stuff like that. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, am I just being a little bit too much of a conspiracy theorist, or you know hey,
I mean, I think it's always smart to be a little skeptical, right? Um, I uh, I guess if you want to write a story, right? I mean, this was cool, right? It was. I think everyone's initial thought when this card was pulled, like thank God it was a kid that pulled it, right? Because it's all like that's what this a lot of this hobby is about, is like sort of like that feeling like a kid again, right? Like you can bond with a kid, like you get a kid's excitement in a card, right? You just feel like that again, right? So the fact that it was a kid that pulled it, it was like a feel good story, feel good moment for the hobby, and that it, like, thank goodness that it wasn't a breaker, right? Not that breakers are bad people, right? But obviously you have some people that feel that breakers are what's making don't
yeah,
that breakers don't necessarily have the best at heart, as far as pricing for the hobby. But back to the point. Um, I mean, what would you do, right? Let's say that your brother owned Fanatics, right? And your Tops. I mean, wouldn't you make a deal, right, to have Fanatics if your brother,
oh come on, man.
auctioned, you
Anthony, if
know,
I own
gold,
Fanatics,
golden wouldn't even be an option.
if I own Fanatics, or if I own Tops, and if you were a breaker, I'm telling you, man, open up the one with the big X on it. Open up that one first. I'm just kidding, everybody. Maybe.
No, no, it's okay to be skeptical, right? You always got to look out, make sure that you know where you stand, and you got to know what you're involved in,
Yeah.
right? Don't get bamboozled, right? That's That's a good stance to have in any aspect of life, right? But um, I mean, was it maybe? I think that it's a big enough hobby and it's an amateur enough hobby, right? Where if that was the case, and you got enough honest people in this hobby, right? That if that was the case, I think that they, if that was the case, they're gonna get called out, right?
Yeah.
I would think.
And you see it happen all the time on X when
Hmm.
a breaker pulls like a another one of one. We're like, oh look, just so
Hmm.
happens that they got another one of one. Yeah.
Yeah,
So like you touched on when we all heard that an 11-year-old pulled this, you know what I mean? You know, I think a lot of people's reaction, the first reaction was like, oh darn it. It
yeah,
wasn't me.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
card is off the table. That's it. But then, like you said, the second thought is, hey, it was an 11-year-old. And actually, they're still releasing like little tidbits of information on the 11-year-old. I think Rudy Campos earlier today uh, shared on X that the journal from the kid had like wrote down on the day when he had pulled
yeah,
is cool and stuff like that. Yeah, 11-year-old pulls one. Felt like the
yeah, yeah.
Chiefs
11
lost.
years old. What that puts you in like junior high school? So like, yeah, he's got to protect his identity.
Yeah, felt like the Chiefs finally lost. But anyway, speaking of the Chiefs, Anthony, this weekend is championship weekend. We got the Commanders going against the Eagles, and then the Bills going against the Chiefs. I know you wanted to touch on a little bit on a couple of players, maybe one or two players from each team, and just on what to look for, maybe how this could affect how their card value could be affected this weekend. Um, I know you had brought up the Commanders. Who do you have going? Who are you going to keep your eye on when it comes to the Commanders? Let's go ahead and start with the early game.
Sure. So with the Commanders, I mean that's obvious, right? Um, we're talking about a a player that one was in the overall number one overall pick in the draft, right? Two, many pundits thought that Caleb Williams was head and shoulders better than him. Um, Three, this is sports, right? Sports is about moments, right? And this kid has just had unforgettable moments throughout this season, right?
Mhm.
And those moments are what will increase your value in in the card game, right?
Yep. I think if even if he somehow, well, not somehow, if he goes to the Super Bowl, just simply that should shoot the value of his card up. Don't you think?
So I'm going to assume that no one right now knows, right, what's going to happen to his value if they win on Sunday.
Mm,
You're
yeah.
talking about last I saw, and things change in his card game, day to day, moment to moment. Um, any Jaden Daniels card that I saw yesterday that was either autographed or 20/25, right, numbered to 25, was selling for like 4 or 5 grand. Now
Mm,
consider this, right?
ain't no patch card.
That if he makes it to the Super Bowl, right, it'll be the first time a rookie quarterback goes to the Super Bowl.
Mm,
So understand that
I'm putting that on the eBay listing. Oh, and by the way,
so understand that in the world of football cards, the only players that really hold value or increase value, right, or people really search for, are quarterbacks and wide receivers, right?
yeah. Hey, speaking of wide receiver, McLaurin too as well. Sticking
Yeah,
with the Commanders. I
yeah.
know I was looking at his. I was looking at some of his cards a little bit earlier. I'm a big old contenders
Hmm.
fan.
Hmm.
Uh, for those of y'all who don't know what Contenders is, that's just a type of product. Maybe we'll touch on that in a future episode. But I was looking at some autos of his, and they were hovering right now between maybe like about 100 and 150 bucks, which is actually not that bad.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah. Hey, moving on. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about the Commanders?
No, no, I was gonna say, right, if you held on to McLaurin card, right, because considering that he was on not so great team before Jaden Daniels got there, right, you probably got him really cheap, right,
Mm,
a McLaurin rookie card, right, and you might still be able to find one, right, you might be able to go somewhere because McLaurin he was scary good receiver, right,
had
he
him on
just
my
didn't.
fantasy team.
Yeah, he just didn't have anybody really throw him the ball, right?
Mhm.
So imagine you've got a Terry McLaurin card, right? That you got a rookie McLaurin card that you got for $5, right? That thing could be, 30, 50, $100 by
Oh yeah,
now.
no. When I say I had him on my fantasy team, I mean I had him this past year, and it was
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That was he
yeah,
was he,
yeah.
he was
He
helping
was
out.
lighting it up.
Hey, moving on to the Eagles now. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and bring this one up. I know this is a little touchy for Anthony. It's a little place in the heart, but I'm gonna go with the. I'm gonna start off with Saquon Barkley, just because of the year that he had. Um, I think that if the Eagles win, make it to the Super Bowl, I think those could affect Saquon's card value maybe for this year as well. Um, I'm not. I don't want to. I don't want Anthony to elaborate on that at all. For those of y'all who don't know, obviously Anthony is a Giants fan, so Saquon leaving the Giants, that was a shot. You know what I mean? So we don't
I,
have to
will-
worry.
I tell you what, I'll say I've made my peace with Saquon, and as a matter of fact, I think
Yeah, you burned his jersey.
I burned his jersey. I burned all his cards that I had, except I mean,
Then you
um,
felt better.
yeah, I felt a little bit bad. I didn't burn any of the rookies or valuable cards.
There you go.
I got rid of one of his. I sold one of his um, rookie autos, and the other one that I have, which is a contenders. I'm sorry, it's a rookie. Yeah, no, It was a playoff. Um, um, the playoff product. Saquon rookie autographed, numbered to 50. Um, like I said, I've made my peace with Saquon. I kept that one, and that guy's at PSA getting graded right right now.
Man, every time I see one of his cards on X or something like that, when his Giant stuff, I shake my head and I'm just like, oh man, it immediately makes me think of it. But hey, anybody else that you want to touch on with the Eagles?
So you heard me say that it's usually an NFL card hobby. It's a quarterback and wide receiver game, right? But there's a rookie rookie defensive player on the Eagles that his cards were already sort of moving
Hmm.
and gaining value, right? He's a unique player, right? Many of players in the NFL, former players, current players, sort of doubted whether he could continue his play in the NFL. But Cooper DeJean is somebody who is played lights out. He had, again, back to talking about moments, he had that big moment where he laid out the king, Derrick Henry, right? Um, so if the Eagles go to the Super Bowl, that's another card that you know you want to hold on to, or maybe get low now before the games on Sunday.
Cool. Hey, so anyway, before we move on to the next game, who do you got going for the Eagles and the Commanders? Or do you actually do you? I know you don't have a dog in the fight, but what do you think is going to happen?
So honestly, I I don't. It depends if the Eagles defensive coordinators you and I used to play poker a lot, right? Everybody's got to tell, right?
Hmm.
And that's the one thing that rookie quarterbacks have, right? That other quarterbacks don't, right? They sort of have um, that element of surprise, if you will, because there's not enough tape out on them, right?
Right.
So there's really no tell yet. But
Yep.
if there's a defensive coordinator or somebody in the Eagles organization that thinks that they have the tell, right? Then it might be a long day for Washington. But if not, and Jaden continues to play, I mean, he's like they say, he's dropping the bread in the basket with these guys, and it's not darts, right? I mean, he's like lobbing it up so that a defender can't come in and catch it sideways. These balls are dropping in, right?
Mm,
This
mm,
this
mm.
this this kid's amazing. I grew up hating the Washington Redskins, now Commanders. My wife is a Commanders, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of rooting for this kid.
There
I'd
you go.
love, I'd like to see Saquon get a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? He's regardless of what I feel for the team he plays for, right? Saquon is he's a good dude, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be cool to see him get a ring.
Yeah. You hear that, Cowboy fans? They ain't got no Dak over there in Washington. I'll tell you that much. Moving on to the Bills and Chiefs. The Bills. So you got. I guess we can start off with Josh Allen, the obvious. Um, if it would also be a bonus, maybe if he wins the MVP. I know he's into talking. So I guess you can go ahead and keep an eye on that. Is there anybody else for the Bills who maybe might catch your eye?
um, you want to look obviously you want to look at Keon Coleman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Receiver from Florida State. Another rookie having an impact on that team. Um, he could be in line for a huge game, here this week.
Mm-hmm.
So keep an eye out on him. They got a running back, Davis. He might, you know, make some noise here and there. Cook is a decent, back, right? But he's not blowing anybody away, right? So there might be some opportunities there for the rookie Davis to, have an impact.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, yeah. This second game is going to be kind of easy because the names everybody's heard them, so you already know their cards are pretty much already written through the roof. You know, what
Yeah.
I mean, you're not gonna. Well, you might find some small pickups and stuff like that. So I guess we can just go ahead and move on to the Chiefs. Obviously, you have your Patrick Mahomes, Kelsey. Uh, is there anybody else's card that you might be keeping an eye on?
Worthy, Xavier Worthy is the guy, right? That um, if you're looking to invest, I mean, honestly, the time to invest sort of already passed us.
Hmm.
But he's going to have the most growth, for value, right? If you pick a Worthy card up, now, if he wins, Um, so the thing about receivers is that we all want a rookie receiver to be Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. That's just not the case, right? They're they're unique talents, right? Um, if you look, you know, historically, right, the receivers don't necessarily um, get into who they're going to be, right, until their second year, right? That's when they sort of start, you know, making a better name for themselves and really blowing up, right? So even if Worthy doesn't necessarily have um, a great playoff run or even wins a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah,
He still has Patrick Mahomes throwing him the throwing him the ball.
yeah, yeah. Just don't be breathing on your Chiefs cards too hard to everybody. You might get 15 yards called on you.
Yeah, I know that's crazy. I
It's
just
it's ridiculous, dude.
yeah,
That's getting ridiculous.
there's a
Spe-
video going around of Mahomes, sort of uh, daintily, you know, running off the field, right, and then flopping, right,
Mhm,
and then right after that they show Tom Brady like breaking for a run,
mhm.
and he got clocked so hard his helmet went flying back like 20 yards
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just got right back up and went to the huddle.
Yeah. It's getting ridiculous, man. Don't even get me started on that. But hey, finally, we have a little bit of grading company talk uh, to finish. I know that you were saying you work with the PSA. Well, when I say work with PSA, I mean that you submit to PSA.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you always get the newsletters and stuff like that that we don't get. You said you received an interesting one. When was it? Recently? Can you tell us a
Yeah,
little bit about that?
yeah, from PSA.
Hmm.
Yeah, they were saying that basically that they're that they're going to be running behind, right? The hobby has just grown so much, and they're getting so many submissions that they don't have the bodies or the space to, um, they still have to do a job and a quality job, right? And
Hmm.
we all know that quality is better than quantity, right? So they still have standards to go by, and I'm sure they're trying their best to abide by them, as fast and efficiently as possible.
Hmm.
Um, but the frustration comes with, man, you guys charge 18, 19, $20 to grade one card, right? And you guys are getting millions of submissions a year,
Hmm.
right? You don't want to expand, get a little bit bigger. So that's what people's frustration,
I
that's
gotcha.
where it's growing, from that message.
And is that about the same time frame that SGC came out with their message to collectors? I believe that they have like I think that they were touched on like they have two sales going on right now or something
Yeah.
like that.
So usually, um, these companies, grading companies, they don't grade or ever have sales like on stuff like 1970s, 80s, 60s, and before, right? They know that there's value in there. So SGC, shortly after PSA's message,
They jumped
uh,
on it.
yeah, they jumped on it and said, not only do we have a sale for $12 for not only um, um, your your playing cards, like your Pokemon
Mhm.
cards, right? But also any sports cards, any year, $12, right? So my numbers might be off a little bit here, but um, it's a significant difference than what PSA is charging, and good on them for making the market competitive, right? And making, if anything, you would think or hope that it makes PSA step their game up.
There you go. He is Anthony Turk. Make sure you give him a follow at Giant Dad 21 on X. Hey Anthony, we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping this up. Do you have any last words for the collectors in the hobby before we get on out of here?
Um, have fun, like you've mentioned before, right? Enjoy it. Don't get too wrapped up in um, always trying to hit it big, right? Um, enjoy what you pull, right? Don't try to keep up with the Joneses, right? I myself, I've never purchased uh, a hobby pack, right? However, now that Skenes is gone, and I still have all my Topps Chrome MVP cards, um, I might buy my first one. I might pick up a 2023, 2024 um, Topps Finest. Um, there's at least two signatures per hobby box,
Oh, that's right.
so I'll probably be looking at getting a uh, fingers crossed, looking to get a Wemby auto.
That's right. Maybe we'll go ahead and touch on that in the next episode too, as
Yeah,
well.
maybe, maybe if I pick one up, I'll hold on to it, and maybe we'll rip it.
There you
And
have it, everybody. You heard him right here. He says he's going to be ripping right here for y'all while we shoot the show. Hey, I just want to thank everybody once again for joining us on this episode of Grading the Market, which is part of the Sweep the League TV network. If you like what you see, hit the thumbs up, man, and don't forget to subscribe to Sweep the League. Okay, and once again, if you have any comments, questions, feel free to leave them down there. Go ahead and DM Anthony on X. You can go ahead and DM me as well at Jacob Eric C. Um, and we'll get to back to you as quick as we can. So, on with that being said, on behalf of Anthony Turk, I am Jacob Eric Cancino. Look at that. What is that right there?
So it's an AJ Brown
Is that
mosaic
is that one of your
Genesis.
most recent pulls?
It's Jason's.
Oh, okay.
I did pull this.
What you got? It's hard to the glare.
Oh, here, let's see if it's better. I don't know. Might still be the same. Yeah, it's gonna be the
Yeah,
same.
yeah. Who is?
It's a it's just a variant from the mosaic.
Uh,
Um, it's a Jaden Daniels.
there you go. There you go.
So I'll have these two guys next to each other while I watch the game.
See which one's gonna get posted on eBay. Hey, once again, he is Anthony, and on behalf of Anthony, I am Jacob Eric, and thank you for joining us on this episode of Grading the Market. Y'all have a wonderful weekend. Good night, everybody.